And I think that this is something that really requires more discussion. There's enormous dissatisfaction in the American Congress, not just among Republicans, although it's pretty extensive there, but among Democrats as well. And this inability to discuss a major strategic threat gets harder and harder to understand. I think there was a legitimate military reason for the government of Israel not to talk about the raid in the immediate aftermath because of concern about a possible Syrian retaliation. Okay, it's 4 months now. There isn't going to be a Syrian retaliation. And if there were no North Korean involvement, why wouldn't the United States want to say so? Why wouldn't the government of Israel? If it wasn't a nuclear facility, why not say so? I would think that the government of Israel in particular would want to make public information about a stunningly successful military strike for a change. So I come to the conclusion that although there are various reasons you could look at, by and large, the government of Israel would probably like to make this public, and it's not because of pressure from the government of the United States. And this is where I think the illegitimacy of the continuing classification issue comes into play. I don't think there are issues, as I have defined what should be made public, that are any threat to Israel or America's national security. I think, and many members of Congress believe this, that this information is being withheld from our respective publics for fear that if it came out, it would reveal the obvious fact that North Korea, once again, following its game plan, has been in violation of the February 2007 agreement in the six-party talks, and that it was engaged in nuclear proliferation contrary to its several commitments. This information is going to come out sooner or later, and I think the sooner the better. And let me just explain why I think this remains so important for Israel. North Korea is desperate to get off the list of state sponsors of terrorism that the U.S. puts out, and over the Trading with the Enemy Act, which obviously puts a crimp in their economic activities. The State Department is eager to take North Korea off the list of state sponsors of terror to save the six-party talks and save the deal. And they're doing this over the strong objection of our close ally, Japan, which feels North Korea has not given an adequate explanation for the North Korean terrorist acts of abducting Japanese civilians. Now, a State Department that's prepared to ignore a close ally like Japan on acts of terrorism like that is prepared to ignore other close allies who are concerned about terrorism as well. Moreover, by providing assistance in the nuclear weapons area and the ballistic missile area to Iran and Syria, which are also listed on the as state sponsors of terrorism, it's hard not to escape the conclusion that North Korea is assisting two state sponsors of terrorism in critically important weapons areas. If North Korea comes off the list of state sponsors of terror, what signal does that send to Iran and Syria and others unlucky enough to remain on the list? Moreover, I think that the daring and successful Israeli military strike against that facility by the Euphrates River has obvious significance for the potential of a military strike against Iran's nuclear program. I think given the debacle caused by our national intelligence estimate, that it's close to zero likelihood that President Bush will authorize the use of military force against Iran's program before he leaves office, absent some dramatic new development. I leave it to you to speculate on what the actions of the next American president will be once we figure out who the next American president will be. But certainly in Tehran, you can bet they took careful notice of what the Israeli Defense Forces did, penetrating Russian-supplied radars, very similar to the air defenses that Tehran has, using techniques that could be useful for a long-range strike against Iran. This is the kind of operation that the Iranians need to continue to worry about, because I think with the collapse of American policy, the Israeli strike against this Syria-North Korea facility is the harbinger of what may be, absent regime change in Tehran, what may be the last resort. and which, ironically, contrary to what the probable intentions of the writers of the NIE were, may have increased the risk of the use of military force, in this case by Israel. Because I don't think anybody here ought to be under any illusions about what the U.S. is likely to do in the next year. And what that means is, unless you're prepared to see Iran proceed unmolested toward a nuclear weapons capability, which this NIE has given them free rein to do, in my judgment, you are coming very close to a decision point in this country whether you will use military force to stop Iran. Thank you very much.